My day is unusual for someone living in New York because I concentrate on European markets. So I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning in New York. That usually starts off with a very strong cup of coffee. And by that time, I usually have the paper in front of me too. So I sit down in front of the computer and I like to see the stories as they've been settled. In this age of social media, we really don't get a chance to step back and see how things evolve. We're too close to situations because we can get feedback in real time. So being able to digest the news once the emotions are taken away from it, once we've had a chance to cool off and really think about things is important. So I start off my morning with examining the prior day's economic news and data. That way I'm not so emotionally intertwined with the actual reaction of seeing it come out and flash across my Bloomberg terminal. The day begins in earnest with preparing for the US economic data releases that are coming out. The significant US data comes out at 8:30 in the morning, an hour before the cash equity open. But as an FX trader, we are live right in the trenches when that data is released. So being up early, being cognizant of what's about to hit the news wire is very important. So every morning, it's all hands on deck from 7:30 to 8:30. During the day, being someone who's focused on Europe, the second half of the morning tends to be a little bit lighter. So that's where I really focus on reading. I think that's actually something that really goes understated as a trader. You need to be able to take in a lot of information, process it, separate the wheat from the chaff, and see how it may affect your trading plan. You should never stop learning and absorbing information as a trader. If it's new techniques or new points of view, there's always something that you can potentially take into your own trading strategy and mindset to improve your process. Being a longer-term trader, being someone who's focused on macro trends, there's an opportunity for me there to consistently hone and improve my process. And I use a good part of my day making sure that I'm constantly learning to achieve those ends. What I like about trading most is the feeling that I can control my own outcomes. When you're trading, you make the decisions that influence how you're going to be spending your time, how often you're going to trade, really how much emotional and psychological investment you're going to be putting into this. You dictate the feelings that you have and you dictate your workflow. The market's going to be moving 24 hours a day depending upon what you're looking at. And so your engagement with it wholly depends upon how intense you want to be involved. There's no boss that's going to come knocking on your door and say, you're late for work. I started trading when I was 17 years old. My first transaction was in this company called Baxter International. It was a biotech pharmaceuticals company. And I was examining it with my mom, who's actually very big into trading as well. So I remember I wanted to finance the purchase of my first cell phone. And so I sold her 5 shares of Baxter. And ever since then, I've seen it as a means to an end of pursuing what I want in life and achieving the things that I need to achieve. I have become a more long-term style of trader. I think that over the years I've experienced some things that have pushed me away from being more short-term oriented. I've had some painful experiences. I've also had some very good experiences. But what I've come to realize is that these experiences aren't processes, they are simply results. And if you're going to be a trader who is successful over a long-term horizon, you need to have a system in place that you can repeat time and time again. The most painful experience that comes to mind is what happened on September 6, 2011, when the Swiss National Bank levied the floor in Euro Swiss. For several weeks, I was long the Swiss franc. And on my 7-minute walk to work, the Swiss National Bank decided to levy the floor, and I was on the wrong side. That taught me a lot about holding large positions when you're not actively trading. That taught me a lot about risk management early on in my career. I've since been able to recover, but it hasn't been without really examining how I want to be as a trader. Do I want to be short-term focused, or do I want to build a system that I can repeat and replicate time and time again? Generally speaking, I like to hold trades in FX from about 3 weeks to 3 months to be able to capture some of the short-term machinations around a, say, central bank cycle. On a day-to-day basis, I'd be able to see the change in the Fed's tone? No, but from a forest level view, when you're stepping back from the individual trees, it becomes quite apparent, and that in turn informs trades. On a day-to-day basis, I think that my view of the market is a little bit less stressful than, say, some of my colleagues who are more short-term oriented. What happens with, say, someone tweeting something out doesn't necessarily affect my point of view because my point of view is informed by long-term economic data trends, what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Is the ECB going to embark on another easing program? How will the Bank of England handle Brexit once all is said and done? These type of relationships don't simply change because of one event in isolation. Those are the tides that move over the course of many moons. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm keeping my ear to the ground. I'm seeing if the theses that I have out there in the world about how the world works, if they're holding up true. And if they're not, then I have the opportunity to step back and adjust my point of view in the trades I'm taking without really rocking the boat too much. Because again, my positions don't change much to much on a day-to-day basis. I'm definitely a mixture of both a fundamental and technical trader. I think you need to use fundamentals as the foundation for your analysis. Technicals are the entry points and the timing for when you're gonna get in and out of the market. There's a really good analogy that one of my colleagues likes to use, but I'm gonna take it from him for the sake of this conversation. Imagine yourself driving from New York to Los Angeles. You know you're heading from east to west. That's the fundamental case. Where you're gonna turn, what highways you're gonna take, when you're gonna speed up and slow down, that's the technical story about it. And so really that's how you have to approach trading. Use your fundamental understanding as a bedrock for the direction you're going, and then when you're gonna turn on and off the highway, go in and out of a position, those are your technical indicators, that's your technical analysis. FX markets by their nature are 24/5, so even though I leave the office around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon New York time, I still have to be around and cognizant of the US market closing. And we've seen significant moves in markets after the US hours recently. I can think of the Japanese yen flash crash at the beginning of January 2019 to it. That was spurred on by Apple earnings. The nature of the FX market means that if you're going to be trading it, you need to have some awareness of what's happening at all times, which is, again, why I've learned the lessons of the past. When you're not going to be paying attention, you really should lever down. You really need to have a prudent risk management strategy for when you're active versus passive. Top tips would be behavioral. You really need to come to terms with who you are as a trader from a behavioral, psychological perspective. Generally speaking, when you learn about finance and markets, we're told that everything is efficient. And in reality, it's not efficient. Think about the trading pits of days old, people screaming, throwing up their hands, different color vests. That wasn't a calm, rational environment. And so you need to be aware of the fact that you're going to experience certain emotions. You may have biases that come into play. You may not want to take new information in. So being right is the secondary goal here. Making money is the top level goal. If that means that you win less than you lose, so be it. But as long as your winners are bigger than your losers, then you'll be able to be successful over a long period of time. My favorite way to think about this, despite being a New York Mets fan, is as an American baseball player. The best baseball players in the world, they're hitting 300, maybe 350, which means they're getting a hit 30 or 35% of the time. What matters is what you do when you get those hits. And so it's kind of the same way with trading. If you can put aside your ego, accept the fact that you might lose more than you win, but you're still able to maintain that discipline and make sure that when you do have your winners, you really push them and you take advantage of the situation that you're in, you can find yourself successful over a long period of time. So set your emotions aside, set your ego aside. You don't want to be right, you just want to make money. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about trading and how to master advanced strategies and tools, join the IG Academy. And for more daily business news updates, subscribe to our YouTube channel, IG UK. See you there.